I have mine set to 2, I think, but you can find just a nice balance of what you like or what the game records best with. You do have to fiddle with it a bit, but yeah. So that's pretty much the main gist of the AVI file. Sound, again, record sound, pretty self-explanatory. You want it on pretty much if you're doing any regular playthrough. And then I just have it on the the highest settings, 16-bit and 44,000 samples. Other options, the only option on here I really ever concern myself with is record cursor. Check it if you want to record your mouse cursor, uncheck it if you don't. That's pretty much all that's with that. And that's pretty much Hypercam in a nutshell. That's how I have it set up. And I don't use it as often as Fraps, but when I do use it, it gets the job done. So yeah, there's Hypercam in a nutshell. Okay, now Fraps. Fraps is a lot easier to set up than Hypercam. There's not nearly as many options. The two main tabs you're going to want to concern yourself with for Fraps are the FPS tab and the Movies tab. So that's the ones I'm going to go over. The only really thing I concern myself with on the FPS tab is the overlay hotkey, the overlay settings down here. Basically, when you start up Fraps and you're recording it from a game, in one of the corners you should see a number, and that is your frames per second number. If you don't see it, Fraps won't record from what you're trying to record. That's the only that's one of the two big flaws I find with Fraps, is that it can't record from whatever you want. Like, I can't record from my desktop with Fraps. I can't record from my Super Nintendo or NES emulator with Fraps, and that's the main reason I have Hypercam, is to record from what Fraps can't record. And that's pretty much my rule of thumb. If one of your questions was, when to use one over the other and why I have two, is basically I use Fraps when I can get Fraps to record it, and if Fraps can't record it, then I use Hypercam. I think the main reason I can't record some things with Fraps is because I think it needs some kind of plugin so Fraps can detect it. I think it's like D3D or something like that is what it's called. But yeah. So yeah, overlay, hotkey, that'll just toggle between the different options, like which corner you want the frames per second number to show up in. I like the bottom right corner just because in most games that's the least important corner, like 80% of the time or something like that. So I just keep it in the bottom right. You do want to keep it on though. You don't want to hide it. You want to be able to see it. Movies, this is all your settings for your recordings. There's not nearly as many as Hypercam. Again, this is right here. This is just the file path to where it's going to save to. It's the same file path as Hypercam, that AVI folder that I have set up. Video capture settings. Hotkey, that's just your start and stop recording key that you would press to start recording and stop recording with Fraps. Then you have your FPS settings. Again, I pretty much most of the time, unless I'm playing a first-person shooter game, keep it to 30. And then I usually boost it up to 60 for first-person shooters. Again, I can't remember why OTG suggested that, but I should probably watch the video again just to see. But you can check it out too if you're interested. This is your main quality setting: full size and half size. The main difference is full size records at the exact resolution your game is. So, like if I'm playing a full screen game, I pretty much always have it set to my desktop resolution, 1680 by 1050, so it will record it at that resolution. Half size will record it at half the resolution. So, that's the main quality setting. If you record it at half size, it's not going to be at as good a quality as full size, but the file size is going to be a bit smaller. That's the second main problem with Fraps, is the file sizes are quite large. It pretty much automatically divides the game up while you're recording, or divides the clips up into 4 GB segments. And like, just to give you a sample of how much space it takes up, if I'm recording like a set of Dragon Age, usually each 3 to 5 minutes of footage equals 4 GB of hard drive space. So now you can kind of see why I wanted to get a second hard drive. But yeah, I would suggest if you have the hard drive space to record on full size, just so you get the best quality possible for your videos. But if you're, I mean, if you want to see the difference between the two settings, go watch the first set of Doom 64, and then watch any subsequent set or video. And because I recorded the first set with half size settings, because that was before I got my second hard drive, and then the subsequent sets were all recorded on full size, so you can kind of, if you want to see the difference in quality at a glance, go check that out. Sound capture settings, again, record sound you're going to want pretty much all the time, unless you're just making a montage video or anything like that. And then I just use detect best sound input, and it just detects my default audio input. These options down here, don't sync audio and video. I don't know why you would ever want to do that. I don't even know why that option is there. I just completely I just pretend that it's not even there, and I make sure it's unchecked. So if it's checked, uncheck it immediately. Hide mouse cursor again. It's pretty, check it if you want to hide it, uncheck it if you don't. 4 slots lets RGB capture. I really don't know what that setting does. I think by default it was left off, so I just left it off. So yeah, that's pretty much Fraps. It's a lot easier than Hypercam, and I like using it over Hypercam if I can get it to record. But for everything else, there's Hypercam. Sounds like some type of slogan. Alright, the next thing I want to go over is just my my sound settings for when I'm recording. The first thing you're going to want to make sure of is that your wave option here is reduced, because if you keep it at max, the gain volume will overpower your voice a lot. Basically, if you kept it all the way up, you'd hear the game really, really well, and then you'd hear this like tiny muffled voice in the background trying to like speak. That's pretty much what it would sound like. So you want to reduce it quite a bit. As you can see here, I pretty much have it. This is like my default for it while I'm recording, is the second to bottommost tick mark. Sometimes I'll adjust that a little bit higher or lower depending on the in-game volume, but that's just the reference point I use. Next thing you want to do is go to Options, Properties, and change to Input. Main thing on here you want to make sure of is mic volume is unmuted and stereo mix is unmuted if you have stereo mix. If you don't have stereo mix, I think you would need to use a separate program to record your voice, like Audacity, or something like that. I don't know for sure because I just use stereo mix, so I've never really had to concern myself with that. But yeah, pretty mic volume you definitely want to mute it, of course, because if you mute your mic, then you're not gonna be able to hear yourself. Stereo mix, basically that lets you record the game volume and your voice simultaneously. So make sure if you have stereo mix to unmute that as well, and that's pretty much how I have my recording control set up. If you use like Ventrilo a lot though, make sure to remute it after you're done recording, because when I first started recording, I got on Vent with my friends one day, and I had stereo mix unmuted still, and I blew their eardrums out because they were able to hear my voice and whatever thing I was doing at the same time. So I was like talking, and then they'd hear like this really loud game music like just blowing into their ears at the same time. So yeah, make sure you remute it when you're done if you like talk to friends on Vent a lot or anything like that. So that's pretty much how I have my sound settings set up. Alright, the last thing I wanted to show you, let me just minimize Hypercam so you can see the whole window, is Windows Movie Maker. This is what I use to render and edit. I know it's pretty much considered the bottom of the barrel compared to other programs like Sony Vegas, but this is all I've got, so I make do. I know if I had something to compare it to like Sony Vegas, I probably would be like, why did I ever use Windows Movie Maker? But I don't, so yeah. Also, when I first started making videos, I actually had never used Windows Movie Maker, so I pretty much had to teach myself how to use it. But it's really not, I mean, it's not like it's a complicated thing, but I'll just show you a couple things that I do. First of all, when you got your footage, what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to import it. So you just go to File, then go down to Import into Collections, and then like right here you see I have the several clips of my tutorial videos, I'll show you how to load it. You just left click it and then you'll see it'll have an import files will pop up. And it'll load. Takes a little bit sometimes though. Doo -doo -doo.